According to public data from indie hackers, on average, it takes 9 months for a bootstrapped SaaS to reach $1,000 MRR. If you can do it in 5 months, you're considered an outlier. Though, if I were to tell you that doing these 3 things could get you to $1,000 MRR after just 1 month, would you try it? Well, we did at my startup, and not only did we reach $1,000 MRR in the first month, but we kept adding another $1,000 MRR every month for the next year. And it's not just us. In fact, almost all successful bootstrapped SaaS are doing this. So if you're struggling to get your product off ground, chances are that you're like 95% of all SaaS founders. You're either unaware of these 3 things or you're deliberately ignoring them. In this video, I'll show you how incredibly powerful these 3 tactics are and how you can use them to become a super outlier and break $1,000 MRR way faster than the average indie hacker. Let's get started. Welcome to my channel, I'm Simon Højbjerg. I'm happy you clicked on this video, because if you're anything like me, super excited about SaaS and online business, but also very intimidated by the whole thing, I can safely say that this is how we all feel. And on this channel, I try to be as open and transparent about my own startup journey as I can. And now, I want to show you these 3 tactics that everyone can do. And while there are no guarantees in startups, I see founders who do these 3 things consistently succeed in launching profitable bootstrapped SaaS products. So, before I reveal the first tactic, let's play a little game of spot the pattern. Let me show you a few examples of successful bootstrap founders, and let's see if you can spot what they have in common. Here's Arvid, the founder of Feedback Panda. He bootstrapped his SaaS to $50,000 MRR before he sold it. Here's Mike, the founder of Upvote. His product is currently doing more than $30,000 MRR and growing fast. Here's Tony, the creator of Blackmagic. He started his journey earlier this year, and his product is already doing $8,000 MRR. So, did you spot what these founders have in common? They are very active on social media and they share a lot of super valuable content. So, did you guess it? Maybe you did, and you're already hating it. Nonetheless, the first tactic is build a social media presence. But before you turn off this video and throw your phone in anger, figuring that you'll never get this many followers, just take a deep breath for a second. Most likely, you're overthinking this. It's really not that difficult. It just takes a certain level of patience and consistency. And it's really about just getting started. When I was first starting out doing video, I didn't have all this fancy equipment. I was shooting my videos on my phone. I was using normal indoor lamps, and my teleprompter was a laptop that I had put slightly behind the camera. I posted these on Twitter and people still really liked them. Along with the written content I did, which I also had to experiment with a lot. And no, I didn't get hundreds of likes in the beginning. In fact, I barely got any, but I kept going and kept focusing on how I could create value. So here's what you should do. Pick a platform of choice. I suggest starting out with Twitter or LinkedIn. Start posting daily. 1 to 2 posts. Pick a topic. Something you want to be known for. It doesn't necessarily have to do with the startup you're planning on building, but it should be something that you can see yourself posting about long term. Jump over to Canva and create a free account and find some nice image templates that you can use to spice up your content. Now, go to FeedHive and sign up for an account. You'll be using FeedHive to schedule all your content ahead of time, so you don't have to spend all your time on social media. And guess what? FeedHive is actually the startup I'm running. I created the first version while I was building my own social media presence. I've grown a following of more than 200,000 people across 4 platforms in a little under 2 years. And I've poured everything I learned into this product. That's why it's so popular with our users. We cover all major platforms and we're using AI to help you create better content and make informed decisions about when and what to post. And here's the most important part. You don't want to try to monetize your audience for a long time. Don't post affiliate links. Don't start selling an ebook or a course. Have patience and just keep sharing valuable content without asking for anything in return. No strings attached. Instead, spend the time building authority, credibility, and start building connections with other creators and entrepreneurs. Social media is just as much about networking and building relationships as it is about creating content. Now, while you got the momentum going on your social channels, this is where you move on to the next part. tactic number 2. This is the part where you start building your new SaaS. But before you start putting an MVP together, there's a thing you want to do first. Did you guess it? That's right. You want to find early adopters. While you've been building your audience and creating content, hopefully you've also connected with a handful of other creators. People with their own personal brands and their own audiences. And this is extremely powerful. First of all, you need users to build your product with. Not for. With. This is an important difference. Find a group of people who are interested in what you're planning on building. Invite them into a closed chat group or Discord server. Now, include them in everything. All the decision making, big and small. You're gonna build it, but they'll help shape the product from day one. Not only are you much more likely to actually build a product users want, but you're also building a strong group of advocates from day one. Consider the loyalty you get from this group of users. They will genuinely feel like they're part of the project. Secondly, since it's a group of other content creators and entrepreneurs, just like yourself, they'll all have their own audiences to advocate to. You will effectively multiply your reach the day you finally launch. This is exactly what I did with FeedHive. When I onboarded the first users, the product barely did anything. Like, literally, it was a text field on a gray website and a few buttons. It was buggy, janky, ugly as fuck, but it was the perfect time to bring in the first users in closed beta. And this is where most founders make the biggest mistake. They build way too far ahead without really having an idea about who they're building for. They think validation is having some users say, "Sure, that sounds great," while presenting the idea once. And that's it. But that's not enough. You need to keep validating your product. I built FeedHive's MVP for almost 2 months together with this closed group of users, and we talked and discussed features every day. If we hadn't had countless discussions in those 2 months about everything from features, pricing, positioning in the market, if I had built everything on my own and made every decision based on gut feeling, I would have completely missed the mark. And guess what? I'm still doing this today. Over time, that small group turned into a Facebook group with more than 1,000 members, but the purpose is still the same. Building the product in close collaboration with the community behind it. I still have my community take part in the decision making of my startup to this day. It's not exactly in the same way as in the beginning, but the community still helps shape the direction of FeedHive. Alright. At this point, you might have figured out where this is headed. This is all about being open, transparent, including people, and making content from sharing about your journey. So of course, the last tactic is building in public. But before we get carried away here, let me just define what I mean by building in public. I simply mean creating content from your journey of building a startup. And I know, there are people who feel very strongly about building in public and the whole open startup movement. And that's perfectly fine. Now, I'm just sharing my perspective on building in public and how I see most indie hackers and small startups using it. It's a social media marketing strategy. That's all it is. You want to create and share content that is interesting and valuable to your audience, and which, in turn, drives awareness, leads, and subscribers to your SaaS. You don't have to share revenue numbers. You don't have to reveal how much you're paying your employees. And you don't have to share any secrets or insights that you believe are business critical. There are literally no obligations at all. What you want to do is to include your audience in the journey, the process of creating, the ups and downs of running a startup, content that is valuable and interesting to your audience. You want to give people a unique insight into entrepreneurship and what it means to build a SaaS. You want to share tips and give advice, share your learnings and findings as they come in. Skip the boring and generic startup advice. People want to see what it's like building a startup for you. Share all the unique parts, all the juicy stuff, and don't be afraid that people will judge. Most people love it when you're honest and open, and most people connect better with realistic and small, rather than extraordinary and mind-blowing. So don't worry a second about having to impress anyone. People want to see something realistic, something that motivates them and makes them feel like they could do it as well. And this is exactly what building in public is really about. Creating great content. Content that will move people. That's all. I started sharing about FeedHive a month before it went live. The people from the early adopter group started to do the same. When I finally launched, we went straight to $300 MRR in the first 24 hours. And after about a month, we had the first $1,000 MRR. No big product hunt launch. No being on the front page of Hacker News. No being covered on TechCrunch. Just building a social media presence. Building the product with a group of eager early adopters. Creating content about my journey and building in public. Then launching over a single tweet. The research on the public data from indie hackers was done by an individual creator, and the data set was pretty small. So of course, we should take it with a grain of salt. Nonetheless, from what I've seen, I don't think the results are way off. Reaching $1,000 MRR is way harder than you might think, and an average of 9 months doesn't seem unreasonable to me. On the other hand, as we've discovered, there's a way that you can beat this average. Though, of course, you also need to actually come up with a SaaS idea that works. Otherwise, this would have been all for nothing. In this video, I'll show you how to come up with a brilliant SaaS idea that actually works. You should definitely watch this one up next. But before you leave, remember to give this video a like and subscribe to my channel for more content. I will see you soon for another video.